Hello, you're on Initiative Africa. My name is Asha Sampath. Welcome to your weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. Let's get on with the show with our top stories today. Interview with Blaise Pascal Tanguy. This Cameroonian filmmaker studied mathematics before succumbing to his passion for cinema. Director of uncompromising documentaries on Africa, this week he invites the public and professionals to Paris to the festival L'Afrique fait son cinéma.
C'est pas toujours très valorisant.
They're not always very meaningful, and so we said we will start a festival where we will choose films that provide a bit of value, that provide an image of Africa that is the opposite of what we're used to seeing.
Listening to jazz music in Lagos, it takes place at the Truth Club, one of the most popular addresses in the Nigerian metropolis, where trumpeter Etuk Ubong awaits us.
But so there was this fateful day, a trumpet player came to the church to play. After the church service, my mom took me to the trumpet player and then handed me over to the trumpet player, saying she wants him to teach me the trumpet, whose name is Etuk Adolphus.
Nigerian cinema is exporting well to the point of traveling each year to Paris for 4 days of screening. Spotlight on a festival unlike any other.
Now we've got our groove back, right? And all we are doing is improving on what we used to do. And in terms of essence, it's still going to be the Nigerian story by Nigerians for Nigerians.
We dive into the nightlife of Lagos for this first report. The Nigerian megalopolis, like many cities in Africa and elsewhere, has had a hard time coping with the lockdown. However, in this jazz club, the music continued to enchant enthusiasts. Our journalist Hugo Yuwana slipped into the rehearsals of composer and trumpeter Etuk Ubong, rising star of the Nigerian scene, to listen to his jazz and Afrobeat cocktail. A delight.
It's a typical rehearsal day at the Truth. With COVID-19 restrictions in place, social gatherings and open performances are on hold in Lagos, Nigeria's entertainment capital. The band's rehearsal do not contravene the COVID-19 orders in Nigeria. Nigeria over the years has been a nurturing ground for an array of musical talents. It is home to Etuk Ubong, one of Nigeria's in-demand trumpeter, composer and band leader. Born and raised in Lagos, the entertainment and commercial nerve center of Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria.
I developed interest in playing the conga drums in the church, and I remembered I also attempted playing the drum set. But so there was this fateful day, a trumpet player came to the church to play. After the church service, my mom took me to the trumpet player and then handed me over to the trumpet player, saying she wants him to teach me the trumpet, whose name is Etuk Adolphus.
Embracing his passion, he began playing the trumpet at the young age of 14, and by the age 16, he went under the tutelage of various professional artists such as Victor Ademofe, the late legendary Sir Victor Olaya, and the phenomenal Femi Kuti. He acquired his musical education from Peter King College of Music, Muson School of Music, and the University of Cape Town, South Africa.
I got exposed to the likes of Malcolm X, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and a whole lot of others who actually reflects consciousness, the black consciousness. I think those are the basic influence I had, musically, and for me to decide that I wanted to be a musician or end up as a musician, which I am today.
His inspiration from jazz, Afrobeat, Ikombi, highlife and earthly elements, wind, water and fire, forges his musical philosophy, which he calls earth music. This epitomizes the blend of music he dishes out from his sacred place, the Truth in Lagos.
We all know what Truth is all about. It's like a musical center where people are allowed to come in to display their talent and given the ability to be able to tell the truth about the society at large. And as the manager here, we tend to make the place accommodating for people and put things in order for a successful program here. So, like our weekly activities, from Monday till Sunday, we operate 24 hours.
Well, for me, the process of me writing my music, or the process of me composing music and the songs I write and I perform are basically of the fact that I need to educate the human race. I need to educate Africa, which is like the bone of contention for me always in my thoughts. The African man, like I said, they don't have this history. See, they don't know that Africa isn't the original name for Africa. They don't know that Akebulan is the original name for Africa.
He performs with his enigmatic band, Etuk's Philosophy, whose rhythms and beat unleashes the musical prowess of Etuk. Together with his band, they have forged a bond beyond the stage. His song has a positive message that addresses the ills in the society, as well as appeals to the heart and mind of listeners.
We've been playing for a couple of years now, and we express our thoughts through music. Yeah, and the challenges and the experience of playing for the Etuk's Philosophy is one of the best bands in the world, because it comprises of lots of instruments and instrumentalists. Etuk music is it talks about life, talks about love, talks about peace, talks about love for humanity, and it brings unity together. We express our emotions through musically.
The Truth Club is a buzzing habitat that attracts people of like musical minds, united under the melodious tunes of Etuk Ubang's Ed music.
In the next 10 years, the Truth is going to be in all corners of the world, also still carrying the flag and that education of the black, that education of the African man.
With 2 albums and an extended play, he has performed on various stages within and outside Africa with over 10,000 ticket sales. His song, Black Debtor, was number 2 on the Corner playlist on Apple Music Jazz, and his album, Africa Today, was on the top 10 playlist of BBC 3 Radio. He leads a new generation of jazz music performers and lovers of his rare genre of earth music.
As I mentioned earlier, our guest today is a filmmaker, and he's inviting fans and amateurs of the 7th art to the festival L'Afrique fait son cinéma, an event made virtual because of the lockdown, but which remains a deep dive into the cinema of the continent with lots of African films showing. This is the 2nd edition of this event, which aims to help raise awareness about African cinema among Parisians, as Blaise Pascal Tanguy explained to Laurent Soustras and Thierry Schiller.
Blaise Pascal Tanguy.
Blaise Pascal Tanguy, hello. You are the director, producer and general delegate of L'Afrique fait son cinéma festival. Why is this festival important?
Je pense qu'il est très important pour nous.
I think this festival is very important for us. In the first place, for us, because we are all filmmakers, and for all other filmmakers across Africa and elsewhere. Because it's not only an African festival, but it's also Afro-descendant, and it's a bit open. Because it's not only African films, we have 2 or 3 films that are not made by Africans. It is important because it will allow us to highlight what we do, to let the world know what we create, what we produce. And we have 2 conferences, one on Europe-Africa co-productions, and we will have a round table that will bring together all the festival organizers in the Île-de-France region about how we can pool our efforts and work together to have events that are stronger and more significant.
You are the promoter of an African scene by Africans, and you say you want to solve the issue of misunderstanding when it comes to the continent. What brought you to this position over the course of your career?
It is true that I grew up watching a lot of movies, Hindi movies, Chinese movies, American movies, and in all of these films, we dream. However, unlike our films, African movies that I watch, being in Africa, and even when I go to France, they are not always very marketable. They're not always very meaningful, and so we said we will start a festival where we will choose films that provide a bit of value, that provide an image of Africa that is the opposite of what we're used to seeing.
Do you believe that, until now, Africa has been represented in movies in a way that has been too stereotyped?
Of course, that's my opinion. It's too stereotyped, because I remember I'm a producer, obviously, as you said at the beginning. I'm a producer-director, and I have many projects. And each time I meet people with my project, I'm told, no, it's not very African. They tell me they are even images that, no, it's not very African, because what are they expecting, in fact? They want to see perhaps the villages, houses falling apart, people who are not well dressed, that run around barefoot. That's the usual, right? That's what we are used to seeing. I personally don't blame anybody, but I just want us to simply make films to tell great stories. It can be beautiful, love stories, it can be our culture, it can be many things, but that we make movies like all the others do, not something that is solely African, as is usually thought of.
In African cinema today, there's also the growing influence of the continent's diaspora and their links with their countries of origin. How do you see this artistic and also perhaps financial relationship? Because I imagine that the diaspora can provide sources of funding or different ways of doing and managing things.
Obviously, it is true that the diaspora learn a lot, because if I take an example, those of us who live in Europe, we study in Europe, we know people who are very well educated and more experienced, and that allows us to acquire certain knowledge that we want to export to our homes, to our various African countries. So when we arrive, we also want to educate those who have remained back there, to work with them, but with the experience we have acquired from the outside. So we put more emphasis on the educational aspect, on the leadership aspect, but in addition to that, we also have funding. It's true that we have a bit more work, we perhaps earn a bit more than the filmmakers who remained in Africa. We may have more sources of funding. And we certainly want to look for funding to bring back to make films, except we are faced with this reality that locally we do not yet understand very well what cinema is. In fact, there are a lot of countries where they don't even know about cinema. So there is this aspect that we also want people to be able to understand, that we have to put money into it locally. For example, the governments, businessmen, private individuals. That it is, after all, a business, a profession where, through film, we can make ourselves known. We can sell and make money too.
About that, in 2017 you created an organization to raise awareness about African cinema, but also to help with this educational endeavor. Can you tell us more about it?
The African Filmmakers Network Association that we have created with a lot of other filmmakers. When I talk about filmmakers, I'm talking about producers, directors, actors, every profession that you know in cinema. The goal was, in the first place, to provide education to children from the streets. Now, why street kids? Because I personally have done a lot of documentaries, mostly on the street, and this allowed me to understand how street kids function, their problems, their dreams, and all of that. And I said to myself, let's create an association where we take people from outside of Africa, we bring them back to any African country, we get closer to children in the street, we train them, and we get them to shoot a movie. We give them the camera, but we stay with them, we show them how it works. They make a film. We do it together. And at the end, we release a film that is 100% made by street kids. That's a big enough challenge, but I'm surrounded by people who have the same vision, and I think we will get there. Okay, now, in addition to that, there is the promotional aspect. The association is also devoted to the promotion of African cinemas across the world. Now, I know, as I am in the business, that there are a lot of films that are made and that die in drawers, because we're not able to get them out there and make them known. Through our festival, films that are made can be seen by others. First, by the Parisian public, since the festival takes place in Paris and Parisians do not know a lot about African cinema. So we believe that they will discover African cinema through this festival. We saw this last year during the first edition by the feedback from people who had seen the films. It was really encouraging. They were very happy. They asked a lot of questions. And this has allowed us to work on the second edition.
Welcome back to Initiative Africa. It's the second largest film industry in the world and it weighs $7.2 billion. I mean Nollywood, of course, which ranks just behind its Indian big sister Bollywood, producing 1,000 films a year. Short filming durations, tight budgets, fiction in local languages, those are the hallmarks of this industry, but not only. To understand this creativity that fascinates fans around the world, we followed one of the past editions of the NollywoodWeek in Paris.
The first edition of the NollywoodWeek festival has come to Paris. During 4 days, actors, producers, distributors and film buffs met to discuss the future of Nigerian cinema. The festival also featured 7 films that were box office hits in Nigeria.
We wanted to show the best movies coming out of Nollywood because there are some beautiful stories and we wanted to create a platform for people to have access to those movies.
The films on offer went down well with both Nigerian and French film lovers.
I saw all 7 films, 7 different styles. This is a new type of cinema, so it is interesting to see the unusual range of subjects being dealt with. Some films are excellent, and others are less so. But on the whole, I'm delighted to have discovered Nigerian cinema.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it a lot. It was fun. Said well, said some good things about Nigeria too, you know. Most times we're used to seeing the other side of that continent, Africa. You see other things, like not the very good part of it, but the film was able to let people know, it showed the culture and everything. It was okay.
Nollywood produces a lot of films, but not always quality films. Nigeria's film production really took off in the 90s with the hit Living in Bondage. Films have a rapid turnaround and are mostly shot on location, with more than 2,000 movies produced each year on shoestring budgets of around $20,000. They're distributed on DVD format and sold in markets for about $2.50 each. With such affordable films, Nigeria has established itself as the continent's leading producer, earning it the nickname Nollywood. But Nigeria's films are also widely distributed overseas, from London to New York and beyond, anywhere the Nigerian diaspora has settled.
New Nollywood today depends essentially on cinema distribution. However, I don't believe that this is a future of Nollywood. I believe that the future of Nollywood lies in cable television, satellite television, streaming, video on demand. This is the future of film everywhere in the world.
For years, Nigerians had foreign films, from Bollywood to Hollywood. These films didn't talk to them about their culture and history. Now, with Nollywood, they have films they can relate to. And this wide public support is the key to Nollywood's runaway success.
Yes, tell the Secretary General to book one.
Now we've got our groove back, right? And all we are doing is improving on what we used to do. And in terms of essence, it's still going to be the Nigerian story by Nigerians for Nigerians.
The industry provides a living for more than 300,000 people and makes a profit of over $400 million. But Nigeria's new wave of directors are ambitious and want to see what is essentially a niche market conquer the international mainstream. For the time being, they are less well known internationally than US or Indian productions, to a great extent due to the lack of professionalism of distribution networks. Nigeria's new wave of producers and directors have great faith in the future of Nollywood and are trying to break this international embargo by seeking out international co-productions.
I think it is down to two things. Nollywood was always aimed at a local market, and they were not really targeting an international audience. But I'm convinced this is an industry in the making. I believe there is a market out there, and not just a niche market. I saw the audience yesterday, a real mixture of people, and all enjoying themselves. That was a universal language.
Look, I want my phone back. I'll give back him.
So while the supply side for Nigerian films plays catch-up, the demand is clearly there. Recent years have seen the advent of cable channels devoted to Nigerian movies. The UK company Sky launched Nollywood Movies in 2008. And in France, Thema set up Nollywood TV in October 2012.
For our programs, we sometimes get half-finished scripts because there are scenes in Yoruba and other dialects. They are not easy to dub. That's the main problem. Then there is the fact that there are no international versions for these films. And we have to put one together. This can mean redoing sound effects and the film score, as well as the dubbing for the actors themselves.
Although Nigerian films have often won awards at festivals, including the famous FESPACO, and cable channels are more and more interested in this budding business, the new wave of Nigerian directors has a long road ahead before gaining international recognition. But until then, with its 150 million viewers, Nollywood isn't going to starve.
Let's now find out more about Blaise Pascal Tanguy's interview this week. He tells us how he got into filmmaking business in the first place, and also how his mission as a committed filmmaker led him to uncover the trafficking of fake drugs in Africa in his movie A Silent Killer. Take a look.
You yourself, Blaise Pascal Tanguy, had initially studied mathematics before you turned to cinema. What was it that got you to do this reversal of sorts?
It's true that I have a rather atypical background. I started, of course, with mathematics, and after I didn't get into cinema right away, I went to an advertising school in Paris. After that, I worked a bit, but my passion, I explained earlier that in France I watched a lot of films, and I said to myself, I will do it. I will become a filmmaker. I will try to understand how it works, above all, because of curiosity. I get into the cinema, I train as a film director, and there you have it. It began. I started in 2004 by creating my own company, and since then I have made many films, and I work on a lot of projects too.
Your film, A Silent Killer, about fake medicines, paved the way for the making of socially engaged documentaries. Is this your trademark, denouncing the problems of African society?
C'est clair, c'est... Curieusement, tous mes films,
it's true. Curiously, all my films took place in the streets. I'm not excusing it, but I tried to, for example, the documentary that I made before that was about street trades, I tried to show that despite what we think, because we see children or people hanging out in the street, they sell a lot of things. They get by at the cost of a lot of effort. So that was the primary purpose. And the documentary about the silent killer. First, why the silent killer? Because many people didn't realize these medicines sold on the street are most of the time either expired or improperly stored, and when they are improperly stored, and I'm not a doctor, mind you, this is a reflection of what I have learned while filming the documentaries, when they are poorly preserved, they become poison, and many people die without realizing it's from the medicine. It's like, I have a stomachache. I go to the street, I get medication, I consume it, and it kills me. And we will never know that it was these medications that killed me. That's why we speak of a silent killer. And during the investigation we realized, or I realized while making the film, that it's a very big mafia. A lot of people take advantage of this from top to bottom. And it pays more than illegal drugs. Because yes, medication is on the street. It did not get there by chance. Those who sell it are not the same as those who manufacture it. It's really the bottom of the ladder because it's an entire chain, it's an entire mafia, and those who sell, there are really at the bottom of the ladder.
C'est toute une chaîne, c'est toute une mafia. Et ceux qui vendent là, c'est vraiment le bas de l'échelle, quoi.
Ce travail de documentariste engagé.
Is being a socially engaged documentary filmmaker dangerous? Do you regularly receive threats?
Oui, pendant le tournage du Tueur
Yes, during the filming of The Silent Killer and other documentaries, I received many threats. I started a documentary, for example, on evangelical churches. I had threats. I stopped it. On The Silent Killer, we received a lot of threats. There are a lot of images that we weren't able to use because we were asked not to use them, and we didn't use them. But I try to educate the population so that they understand that these kinds of medicines are dangerous, so that they try to go to chemist shops, pharmacies, or traditional regulated channels to get medication. This is much safer.
You're also a producer. From your point of view, is it money that is most lacking in African cinema?
Bien entendu, c'est l'argent.
Of course, African filmmakers lack money to make real films, but I think that the basis is education. It is much more education because, unfortunately, many are not trained. There are no prestigious film schools in Africa, and not everyone can travel to get an education elsewhere. There are a lot of people who start out like that. They want to make films, and then we end up with the result that we have because, as a great American director has said, to make a film, you need a great story. You need a great story, you need a great story. And you have to know how to tell us a great story. You need a very good screenplay. And when it comes to the screenplay, we really have a problem there. We cannot yet write great screenplays. And after the screenplay, we need money. Of course, we need money. Even if we get an education, it takes a lot of money to make a film, because people say, we will manage, we are going to quickly make a film and bring it to the screen. The proof is in the pudding, if you will. We see the outcome. Our films are not exported much. They don't meet international criteria, and therefore are not shown in big movie chains around the world or in big festivals around the world because the quality is just not there. The story is not told well enough. The acting is neglected, hence people refuse our films. So first we need to think about education, and then I think money will follow. I have faith. I believe it.
Finally, you're working on many projects at the moment. Can you tell us more about them?
I'm working a lot on film projects. I'm working on a TV series project, which I have been working on since 2012, actually. It's been 8 years. It's a story of corruption taking place in an imaginary country that will report a bit on all elements of corruption.
We are
working on that, and in parallel there are 2 feature film projects, another TV series project as well, and a documentary project on a lady by the name of Françoise Mbango, who is a triple jumper. And then there is also a documentary film project that brings everything together a little. I had to tour the Central African countries to show a bit of the economic, cultural, social potential of these countries through the documentary, moving away from the prejudices, showing the potential in these countries. And that's it. Well, there is the festival project as well, of course. For me, it's a part of the film projects because it's the festival that allows us, all these projects, to be shown to the public.
You were watching Initiative Africa. Well, that's it for today. If you want to catch the show again, tune in on our social media channels and feel free to share, like and comment using the hashtag Initiative Africa TV show. Also, you can find Blaise Pascal Tanguy's interview and the replay of all our previous shows on our new website, africaonair.com. And we're back again next week, same time, same channel with Business Africa, your appointment with the African economy. Until next week, keep safe and thanks for watching. Goodbye.